Hey guys, how you doing? Well, it's a great time to be a Beatles fan. Now and Then has come out, and I've already recorded and talked about um, what I thought about it. They were kind of initial impressions. It of course released on Thursday. Now it's the final hours of Sunday here in Brazil. The final hour actually. I'm gonna talk a bit more about Now and Then, and also about other stuff too. So yeah, Now and Then is a hit. It's number one on the UK, a number one single, and that doesn't make me that much surprised because it's the Beatles, right? It's their final song, and there's been a ton of press coverage, so that's expected. Will it hit number one on the US? If it does, then I'll be more surprised, simply because I think it's a tough market right now. Um, it's got so much more competition. So let's see how it works out for the boys. Of course, we'll be rooting for them. And let's talk a little bit more about the song itself. Well, I quite liked it. I loved it. I think it's at the same level as Real Love and Free as a Bird. Um, I don't know how I'd rank them. I think I need a little bit more time. But there's two things I want to point out. Number one is that on the verse, there's a little rhythm guitar playing some funky rhythm, and it sounds great. And even on the first time I heard the song, I already thought that was so cool. It was it's one of the coolest moments regarding instrumentation of the song for me. And there was a guy, I should have written down his name, but he's already done a cover of his song, of this song, on his guitars. I'm trying to find quickly here his YouTube channel, and he pointed out that that was George, and I didn't think George had recorded guitar, but apparently he did. Okay, it's Sam Popkin. Sam Popkin. His videos got 30,000 views, um, and he pointed out to me that it was George who played that, and he knows that because it says on the personnel. So it's cool seeing that George played electric guitar. Also, I really dig everything about the song. There was a fan-made mock-up of the song. If they kept the pre-chorus part, I'd say, of "I don't wanna lose you," and to me, that sounded really bad. The fan-made mix, of course, if it were the original mix and the original Beatle production, it would have been better, no doubt about that. But it just sounds so out of place with all the the vibe that went into the song. And at the end of the day, I was kind of bummed in the beginning that the "I don't want to lose you" part was there, but now I do see why, especially because of the lyrics. The lyrics don't make any sense really. They they were kind of unfinished, so I get it now. Okay, and the final thing about it, the only thing that throws me off that song on Now and Then is the final part of the solo. I wouldn't call it a solo, I would call it an instrumental break. It's a collage of sounds with, of course, Paul using a slide guitar, and they throw the because vocals at your face, and it just kind of throws me off a bit, just like when you're playing video games and a bug comes in and you suddenly get a little bit out of that loop, right, out of that immersion. It kind of breaks the immersion for me a bit. Of course, I'll get used to it, but I think they should have done something more subtle, right? It's literally a sample from Because, and it sounds off place, especially because the Beatles never did something like that, to sample their own work like that. So it doesn't quite sound like the Beatles to do that, you know. That's my only complaint about the song. I bought the single. I'm only getting it on June next year, so I don't even know if I'm gonna show it to you guys. The cassette tape looks so cool. I wanted it, but it doesn't make too much sense for me to spend money on it. I don't have a cassette player. I've never even played a cassette tape in my life, and I do have a vinyl collection, so it makes more sense. Um, Two things about Now and Then, actually three things. Number one, about number one and two about the art, the artwork of the single. Now I do dig the artwork. The Now and Then picture, kind of green and blue. In the beginning, I thought that looked rough. Thought that looked really bad, but it grew on me, and now I quite like it. I think it's nothing like the other of the Beatles stuff in a good way. I think it's modern, but at the same time vintage. I can see why the Beatles chose that, and it really grew on me. So please let me know down here if you agree with me on that. And also talking about the artwork, um, there's a clock in the back of the single art written now and then, right? The word now and the word then. And apparently Olivia has a story about it that is written on the single sleeve. And it's a story that I forgot the name of the guy. Andrew. Is it Andrew? Anyway, I keep forgetting the names, but I've heard it on a YouTube channel. He's a pretty famous guy. He's English, and he told us that story. It's Andrew Dixon, right? His name, Andrew Dixon. The story is that George bought that in 1997, that clock, and when Paul rang Olivia, she was looking at the clock. When he rang her to talk about his idea of finishing Now and Then. So that sounds so weird. It's such a huge coincidence, and the Beatles story is filled with those coincidences, right? It sounds so cool knowing that. Now, let's talk about the other thing I don't like about Now and Then. That is the video. Holy crap, was the video underwhelming in my opinion. I know most people loved it. I thought it was too corny, too goofy, and not because John was dancing and the Beatles were playing around with each other. Just the way the video was made, using those collages of old Paul and old Ringo. They are not in the same room clearly, and George and John from the Hello Goodbye clip. It looks like something a fan would have made, and that's not in a good way, right? It's in a terrible way. I don't understand what budget Peter Jackson had, but it looks terrible. The visual effects look terrible, and it throws me off. I've kind of grown a little bit more into it. I get the fun in it, and if you like it, you know what? More power to you. I really wanted to like it because it's the final clip of the final Beatles song. But to me, it looks terrible. And if you compare it to even a bad Beatles video clip like Come Together, at least that one had didn't cringe me really. Of course, there are some really cool parts about this video, like Paul listening to the orchestra and the live orchestra playing, and the final image, which was kind of extremely emotional. The Beatles bowing actually, and they fading out, and the sign written Beatles also fading out. Powerful image, really fun. I really liked how the anthology stuff came out. There's a lot of things, a lot of images about Paul and George playing now and then. I was kind of blown away by this. Didn't know there were images, and they were restored in a really cool way. Reminded me of Get Back, and I think it's a given now that eventually they're gonna make Now and Then. I'm sorry, Anthology remastered, right? A new version of Anthology. Besides that, I hope the clip grows on me, the video clip. I don't think it will. I kind of cringe to it. Maybe when I get older, I'll look back at it and say, yeah, I understand the fun now, but I'm just too fixed on the idea that the visual effects look terrible, and I can't really enjoy it. And I'm really happy that the song came out one day earlier. If the first time I heard the song was paired along with a clip, I think that would have been so much harder to digest, really. Anyway, I don't want to sound like a Grinch here, I'm sorry, but that's my opinion, right? Again, I love Now and Then. Such a blessing for us to have it in our lives, really. And now the Now and Then talk is over. 11 minutes have gone by. Let's talk about the other song that the Beatles released on Thursday, Love Me Do, the first of the 2023 remixes, and it sounds great. It's the single version. It's not my favorite. I'd rather listen to the album version, although the album version has that echoey thing to it, like the Beatles were in an echo chamber. I don't know if they really were on an echo chamber of Studio 2. It's just the aesthetics of Please Please Me, right? And I don't mind it really, but listening to Love Me Do without it kind of makes me like the non-echoey version. But it sounds so raw, and when you listen to Love Me Do and Now and Then is so explosive, so in your face, and Love Me Do has a huge breathing room because it's two guitars, two acoustic guitars, a bass, and some drums. And that's it. Vocals, of course, but it sounds spatial. It sounds less energetic because of that. Comparing it to the mono mix, which is something that, yeah, it's kind of a given, right? When there's so many, when there's less detail, right? There's not a lot of instruments, and you kind of separate them. It makes sense for it to be less energetic, right? But at the same time, it's so inspired on the mono mix, I think, because the bass is a little bit to the left, the drums a little bit on the right, but it doesn't have that huge separation we see with stereo mixes, being the old Beatles stereo mixes of the older material, like Please Please Me, where we have vocals to the right and instruments to the left. That sounds terrible, and the gap in the middle, right? And not like Abbey Road, where we have a lot of textures and instruments, and it just kind of it's more understandable if you pan a guitar to the left and to the right, and you don't even think about it when you listen to it without inspecting it, right? So that's why what I mean. I feel like it's inspired on the mono mix. It's not too not too flashy, doesn't try anything new, doesn't try to reinvent the wheel. It's good old Love Me Do. We can hear Paul's bass clearly in it, which I think is so cool. I do have a Hofner, so it's so cool listening to Paul's bass clearer than ever, and you notice that, yeah, it's the same tone as this one. You clearly notice it's a Hofner, and as a Hofner owner, I get very happy about that. You can clearly hear John and Paul's voices. They sound so clear, but at the same time so connected, just like John and Paul used to do, right? They were masters at this. And last thing of all, when I was listening to it with my headphones, I could definitely hear some buzzing, some crackle really in the beginning of the song, and I hadn't noticed it, but when I listened to the original, the past master version, it was there. Um, that being said, let's segue to the next thing I'm gonna talk about. I'm really looking forward to the new mixes of the Red and Blue Expanded, especially some mixes that I think are overdue, long overdue, like Magical Mystery Tour, um, the Fool on the Hill. Super excited about that. Maybe it's the one I'm most excited about, along with Revolution, and also Old Brown Shoe, and the newer, the older songs as well, like the Rubber Soul songs. There's tons of Rubber Soul songs on the Red album. Really looking forward to it, and it's coming on Friday. So I'm gonna make a video talking about it. It's probably gonna be a larger video, like this one, talking about the Red and Blue albums at the same time. Um, what I feel about the track list, what I feel about the mixes, especially. I do really want to touch on the mixes and talk about them because it's one of the things I love the most. Listen to the new Beatles mixes, which I love for the most part, and discuss them with you guys. And last thing, I gotta mention to you guys right now is that I'm going to 2 concerts this week. I'm gonna go to Roger Waters in my city on Wednesday, and on Friday to the Red Hot Chili Peppers in São Paulo, Brazil. And I'm super excited about that. I hope I have a great time, and I want you guys to know, if you're here still listening to me ramble on about the Beatles for 20 minutes straight, and if you guys want to hear my takes on it, I really love to see some positive feedback out here, and I really love to make a video for you guys. That being said, I'm traveling on Friday, definitely listening to the Beatles Red and Blue on the way to Sao Paulo on the plane and coming back. But the videos of the Red Hot Chili Peppers concert and the Beatles Red and Blue are coming on Monday. Monday or the week after that, right? So please let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for being here. Love you all. Have a nice week. Thank you.